Hello there. Welcome to Infinity. I'm Charlie Seraph, and this time we're going to be talking about hypnosis and past life recall. Our guest is Bob Logg. He's a retired San Francisco businessman who was a primary participant in scientific research into reincarnation conducted by Dr. Helen Wambach, a previous guest here on Infinity. He's been practicing self-hypnosis for 35 years. It's a long time. Before we get into your work with Helen Wambach, let's talk a little bit about self-hypnosis. What exactly is it? What is self-hypnosis, and how does it work for you?
Basically, Charlie, it started as a relaxation to overcome anxiety of being in bed for almost 2 years in the VA hospital with tuberculosis. And it was a bad case, and PT woman said, "You're going to have to learn how to relax." She said, "It's not really approved by the management in the VA," but she said, "I'll bring you a little book." And she brought in a book by Dr. Funk, How to Relax. I'll never forget the doctor's name. And you start with your toes, and you talk to every segment of your body, and you work your way up to your scalp. And I tried it a few times, and I got a little result. But eventually, I really learned how to control my body, and I lowered my pulse rate, and my respiration dropped way down. And a year and a half, 2 years later, I was out of bed and moving around, and they said I had a miraculous recovery. And so it really made a believer out of me.
When you say you talk to your toes and you talk to your ankles and your feet
Well, you
and
just
so on,
tell them to listen, loosen up, and relax. And by the time you get to your scalp, you feel like you've sunken completely into your bed. And actually, I guess you could move your scalp, maybe pull up an inch easily, loose skin on your scalp. And she would come in and find me relaxed, and she'd pick up my arm, and I couldn't hold my arm up. It would just drop like a dead fish on the bed. And so I really got the method worked down to a fine-tuning thing. And of course, I had all the time in the world to do it, so I really perfected it.
are you talking out loud or is it a mental communication?
No, it's mental. If you talked out loud, they'd have you in the psycho ward in no time.
When we're talking about self-hypnosis, how do you know that you've been hypnotized? Is the lymph state of your body the primary clue?
I guess it's just like meditating. You just you're aware of a higher state, I guess, and your body cooperates with your mind, and everything kind of calms down, and it's a gratifying, satisfying feeling, really, and it's a nice, pleasant thing you look forward to doing.
Is it a semi-conscious state so that you can snap yourself back at an
Oh yeah,
instant's notice?
it was with me. Although I taught a friend how to do it, and a friend told me, who was a good hypnotist, look at the ceiling and visualize a small dot, and roll your eyes up. So you have to strain to look at that dot on the ceiling, and when it starts to move, you're under. And my friend went under for about 2 hours until the phone rang and woke him up. But I've never had any problems like that. You can control it. It's just a matter of handling yourself.
Since your early days of experimentation with self-hypnosis, you have also done some meditation. Can you talk about what the difference is between meditation and self-hypnosis?
Well, I think that self-hypnosis, you have a problem you really want to work on. I guess you could use it for smoking or not getting upset in traffic or anywhere you could use it. Whereas a meditation, I don't know what everybody has to do, but I like a quiet room and kind of a not too comfortable a chair, and usually late at night when I can really get into myself and attune with things, and I think that's the difference.
Is there a difference between that state, the meditative state, and being sleepy?
I I think there must be some kind of difference because your body really slows down in both cases, but actually, I guess your mind slows down too when you go into the sleep state. Whereas in meditation, I think you can become very sharp and attuned to other areas in your brain.
Have you found in the experimentation that you did during those first couple of years and since with the self-hypnosis that it is a deeper form of rest for you than the actual sleep?
It is for me. It is. I don't have to worry about rolling and tossing, or you just can lie there wide awake, and every part of your body is relaxed internally, all your limbs. It's a nice feeling.
I always reserve the right to ask one really dumb question on
Uh-oh.
Infinity, and I think I've just come up with it. Have you ever had your body parts, what we call fall asleep, that tingling sensation during self-hypnosis?
No, not during self-hypnosis. I've had it other times, but never during self-hypnosis. No.
That might suggest that the circulatory process is still
Yeah.
functioning real well, because I guess that's
The
what
body
it is.
is
It's a
the
lack of
body's
circulation.
working very well when you're under. But
how did you get involved with Dr. Wambach?
oh, these things just seem to happen to me. I happened to wander in a bookstore up here on Sutter Street and saw a notice of her lecture. So I wandered in the room, and there were 5 other people there. Some woman brought a kid, and they were stretched out on the floor. And she said, "Would you like to join us?" And I was kind of shook because I didn't know anything about reincarnation. And Helen looked like the motherly type, and I said, "Okay." And what are we involved in? She said, "Well, just lie down on the floor and relax." And I did, and I obviously had a terrific trip when I related it to her later. And the old man next to me had fallen asleep and was snoring, and the kid was making noises, and it was just a nice feeling. So when I gave her the story, it sounded like a B movie, really, Cecil B. or one of those, productions. And she asked me, would I be interested in going further in the subject and working with her. So I said, well, what's it entail? And she said, well, once or twice a week getting together and laying on the floor and going under. So we did for 4 years and got some startling things. And I still continue to believe that it was all in my fantasy world and something I'd seen in an early movie or late night television until I started writing hieroglyphics and speaking in several languages that I had no knowledge of. And she got them checked out. And she called me all excited one morning and said, "You won't believe, but your hieroglyphics are 80% accurate." And I said, "And how, what about the language?" He said, "Well, on the Egyptian, 50%, but they didn't have any tape recorders back in those days, so we can't really be sure." And that really made me think, well, maybe there's more to it than just fantasy world. And it gave me a nice, comfortable feeling that I was this actual person who lived many lives. 14, I think, was total.
14 lives you got during 4 years of this hypnosis
4 years of
and
research
regression.
with Helen. And Helen, of course, is a typical scientist, a skeptic in the whole bit. So I wasn't dealing with some, just a little old lady with a psychic feelings that gets involved in reincarnation. This woman was sharp, and she knew what she was doing. She was going at it on a scientific research basis.
Have you since drawn connections between the conscious reality of this year, this time, this space, with some of those things that you got out of the hypnotic state?
I think so. Not too much, but I see things where I make comparisons where maybe in a past life I had been prejudiced, in this life that I'm making up for it by being just the opposite, going to the other end of the spectrum. In the same way, physical attractions and strangers that I meet, that I just know that there's more than just a friendliness there. And I'm sure there's something to it. I really believe in it. The best thing, though, is the fear of death has really just vanished. I had a little when I was sick, and I'm pretty close to it, but it was always that, what's the final moment going to be, how painful, and things like that. I have no fear of death now, which is a hell of a good feeling.
Can you relate a specific experience from one of those regressions?
Well, I don't know if we could use this. Some of them are rather bizarre, and one Hustler magazine was even interested in it. I don't think we can go into that, but the reporter was just drooling as I lay there under, and Helen was recording the session. But gee, some of them were.
That was a sexual experience that you were recalling from a previous life?
And
what time period was that?
I guess it was back around the end of the Roman Empire. I don't know what the date would be, but
guess they had a lot of that then, at least from the.
I guess in those days things were
from the B movies that I've
more,
seen. Yeah,
a little more easy in those days, but some of the emotional things were rather beautiful and touching.
Were the memories that you had, are these vivid things, or were they kind of like foggy?
They're in Technicolor. They're clear, and they're in living color. It's just you just see it. You see it, but you don't see it. It's just a mental image that is a visible thing in your head, and you see faces and you hear words, even though it may be in a foreign tongue and an archaic tongue. It comes through as a thought wave in English. It's hard to explain.
Let's take another stab at it, though. in the interest of the people that are listening right now that have never had this kind of an experience and that have never been associated or known anyone or heard anyone talk about this kind of an experience, what I'd like to see if we can't do is paint as vivid a picture as we can with words in English on the broadcast for them. If you could relate a specific action or incident where you're riding a horse kind of thing or anything like that would crystallize for us.
Well, I guess there was one incident. It was a minor lifetime, really, and of very little importance. And most of them were of no importance at all. You're just another peasant running around with a wooden spoon and working a hard day's labor for a few grains of rice or whatever. But there was one incident I'll never. I guess the pain was what impressed me. I slipped and got squashed by an ox cart, and that was the end of that lifetime. And the pain was just unbelievable, yet I could feel myself being pushed into the soil and went through the whole feeling as if I were in that body at the time it happened. And
where was that life?
Oh, I believe it was in one of the Egyptian lifetimes.
Mm-hmm. And you were just a peasant, as you recall?
Well, most of the lifetimes, I think Helen proved that most of the people were just common everyday folk, and they weren't the Cleopatras and the Neros and the rest. There weren't that many.
How did it happen that you happened to slip under the ox cart? Do you remember that?
I think it was...
Were you riding on the cart? Or?
Let me reflect. I think it was something to do with drinking a strong ale and too much of it on payday. I think that was it. And looking over at the corner at some broad going by in her white gown, I suppose, and stumbling and getting squashed by an ox cart.
You know, so often when we have people relate stories of past lives or that sort of thing, it seems that we get the impression that everybody was either Napoleon or Cleopatra.
Everybody would have liked to have been, I guess, but there just weren't that many Napoleons to go around, let's face it. And Helen's graphs, I guess she told you on the other programs, really backed up everything that she found, age levels and everything.
Has it changed your life right now? I mean, are you a different individual
I think
for
so.
having an understanding?
Well, I think the
of
meditation alone would have really helped, and I think anybody that really has any real problems ought to look into it, or biofeedback, or anything that really can get you in tune with your body. But with me, like I said earlier, the death experience is no problem now. I have no fear of death, which is a beautiful feeling, and I wish a lot more people had the same feeling I have. And you get this awareness of your body, and you can cooperate with your body, and you can instruct it, and you work as a team instead of against each other, and where you bring on a lot of problems. And everyday life relationships have improved, I think. Just realizing, well, maybe I knew this person before, and I'm sure that there's something there more than just meeting on the street and eyes clicking and knowing that your friend.
You're listening to Infinity on KCBS in San Francisco. We're talking with Bob Logg, a retired San Francisco businessman who was a primary participant in some scientific research into reincarnation. Can you, if you can, discuss some of the technical aspects of what it is that Dr. Wambach did and how you responded? What kinds of questions did she ask you?
Well, she had a definite procedure which she used with everyone, and she wanted it that way to back up her scientific program. I mean, she didn't want to hit or miss or anything. She went through the steps, and when she took you back to a certain time period, she did it by a regular formula, and she would relax me and get me under, and then we would go back through the time step, and then she would start asking me basic questions that she had on her list.
What's a time step? What do you mean by
Well,
that?
like where were you between 2000 and 3000 BC? Did you have any experience? And if you did, you related a time area and where the location was, what type of clothing you were wearing, the color of your skin, the texture of your hair, and then you would look around and you would check out the surroundings. And with me, she would ask me if I saw any writing or if I saw anything that I could relate by scribbling it out, and that's how the hieroglyphics came through. And then she said, do you think you could go into language? And I did go into some of the languages, and the Portuguese and things like that I have no knowledge of in later lifetime. And that's how she got started.
Have you since visited any of these countries? Have you been to Egypt or
No,
Portugal or any place else?
I've never been to Europe. I've been spent some time in the Orient, but strange enough, I never had any reincarnation experiences in Asia. All mine were in Africa or Central America or the European plain, so I haven't been there. And we were planning on a trip, but it didn't go through. We were going back to England, and one of the big newspapers wanted to make a big deal out of it, and I wasn't too eager to get involved in that in London and to investigate a wool merchant life that I had back in the late 1700s. With I gave names of streets and firm names, and I think I even quoted prices on the wool market that in that period,
And
which
that,
we could have
that
checked
information checked out, or it hasn't been
out.
checked
Helen
out?
checked some of it out, but we were going to go back there, and it just was too involved as a promotional thing, and I didn't want to get involved in anything like that. I just don't want to get on a hype on it. So,
What was the most recent of the past lives that you remembered during that
I
hypnotic
think there
state?
was one in the Middle West, but it was very brief. It was just a matter of weeks, infant death and things like that that popped out. And
What was the time frame on that? Do you remember?
let's see. I think it was 1910, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check it out. It just didn't seem that important. That's another factor, Charlie, that comes through. The previous lives don't seem that important. It's the experience that you seem to gain from those lifetimes that is more important than the actual personalities and the historical things that happened. It's just what did you learn from that? And you're going to have to do it over or whatever. Some people believe we have to.
You said you're not afraid of it anymore, having gone through these experiences. What's it like, death?
Well, Helen has a thing that she does on the death experience. Now, you go through a regression, and she brings you the point of your actual death in that lifetime, and you describe it. And I think I'd say about 80% of all the people she interviewed, they all see this bright light in a tunnel. And, of course, you read about this stuff in the throwaway papers, and but when it actually pops out of your mouth that you see the same tunnel and this rapid speed when you leave your body and bright light, I guess there must be something to it. And a complete feeling of oneness, and it's a damn nice feeling. It isn't, I think, anything to fear.
In Dr. Wambach's book, Reliving Past Lives, there's a long stretch from about 100 AD to 1300 AD where you didn't have any impressions of any past lives. Was that ever
floating around the void or something? I don't know.
Is there an explanation for it, or
I don't have any. I don't have any. Maybe I made good points on the previous one and didn't have to pop back.
What kind of a personal question? What is your religious / spiritual background?
Well, brought up a Methodist and hated Sunday school, and so got away from that when I ran off and joined the Army, and very little other than the artistic and the music, and maybe watch the priests run around in their wild clothes, but no real interest in the present day religions other than maybe some of the newer religions are attractive. Somewhere the meditation brings out really a oneness with a superior type being or whatever you want to name it.
So there's nothing in any of this past life regression that's inconsistent with any spiritual values or beliefs that you have in this life. Have you ever taken part in any of Dr. Wambach's research into the future when she's trying to progress people ahead?
Helen was thinking about getting into it, and then a lot of people wanted to try. I think we had one or two sessions, and I wasn't really interested in that much in the future, and I don't think Helen was that interested in it either. We couldn't prove anything, for one thing. At least when I describe a coin or I write a hieroglyphic, we can check it out. But how are you going to check out the future? I mean, it really seems like you're popping into fantasy land. But then again, maybe there is a range that you can reach into and hit the future, but it didn't interest me that much. It really doesn't.
You seem to have a real healthy skepticism, and it wasn't what I expected in reading some of the material, some of the advanced materials.
I wasn't that eager to get involved, really, to be honest, but Helen's personality, and like I said earlier, the fact that she was a genius and a scientist, and one hell of a nice lady, I I was glad to cooperate and go into the research. And I was skeptic until the hieroglyphics and the language proved, and that made a believer out of me.
You mentioned the fact that you really didn't want to get involved with the circus atmosphere of the London newspaper that wanted to come over there and make you
Yeah.
a guinea pig or
Who
whatever
needs
they
it?
wanted to do. Yeah.
Who needs
I
it?
wonder, has it affected your ability to function in this society in any ways? Have you, for example, lost any friends because they think you're full of baloney?
I have a few that like me for myself, but don't bring it up at a dinner table because, to put it bluntly, some of them are very Catholic, and I know it runs a little counter-grain to their beliefs, and I don't push it. Other friends are just the other end of the spectrum. They're overly interested, and it's just you got to reach a happy medium, and I feel comfortable. The main thing is if you're comfortable with yourself, the hell with the rest of it. And if you can help somebody by either make him investigate it, give it a try. If it doesn't click or you feel something's wrong, drop it. But then again, it might make a hell of a good personality. It might help you physically and mentally and make you a better person.
Have you seen God?
Who, me?
Yeah.
What, 20 or 40 feet tall? No, but I've often felt the presence of a hell of a nice personality around me, and I don't know whether it's has to be out in fishing in a brook somewhere or squeaking the air on a goat, but you can find it in your own living room or even sitting on a john, to put it bluntly. It's just you search and it's there, and I don't know if it's a god or a force or what, but it's there, and I feel very comfortable with it.
You're retired right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking forward to most? Are you looking forward to death?
I don't think I'm looking forward. I got a ways to go and a few things I'd like to do before this one is terminated. But I have some relationships that I thoroughly enjoy and have been great for many years, and it's been a good life, and I feel that it's going to get better.
And you're not particularly looking forward to the next one?
Who knows? Maybe there won't be another one.
How do you use self-hypnosis? And that's where we started, if I can kind of wind back to that. How do you use it in your life right now?
I used it when I got on the freeway today to come over here at the Army Street on-ramp.
It was a little hectic there?
Yeah, you can use it. You can use it. Every problem that causes a little tension, try it. You can try it when you feel like having a second martini. You can do it on anything. You can do it when you're getting ready to kick the cat.
You know, to a certain extent, you're serving an educational function right now by passing along your experiences and your thoughts to those people that are listening. Have you ever thought about doing more in terms of education, working with Helen to try to get the word out?
I'd like to see people really, if they're really interested, if they can get a copy of Helen's book. I don't know if it's still in print, but if not, get it from the library. And do a little investigation. Don't get involved with kooks. Get somebody that's highly recommended and do a little delving into it. Try a little meditation and go from there. If it's meant to be, it'll happen. And that's what happened to me. And I don't know whether I want to get involved with a crusade but wherever possible, I like to help people. And if I think it'll help them, I'll suggest it. But
have you been, as you recall in past lives, a woman?
I think we had 5 as a woman and 9 as a male. And it was rather a shock, I guess, the first time. Helen, in the beginning, didn't bother to tell me too much of what happened. And then she started having a secretary take notes and recording, and then she would give me a transcript. And I think the first time I read the transcript of a female life, I was a little bothered by it. I don't know why. I guess, you can't have them all male. You're going to pop back. We never had any coming back as a dog or cat or a horse. I know that. So
that's kind of a relief.
But
huh?
it doesn't bother me now. I don't know. I guess everything's an experience you have to go through.
Do you think it gives you a better insight in terms of understanding women, the fact that
Oh,
you
sure,
know
and
that you've
more
been one
tolerant
before?
of what's going on in the last 20 years in the women's movement and things like that. And I was never really a chauvinist, but I know I never could have been after going through this. And prejudice too. You always you're reared with certain prejudice that you look back on, you're embarrassed by, and it'll eliminate a lot of that if you find out that some redneck with a black slave in Africa back in 2000 BC and what he went through.
Have you ever had, you said every once in a while you'll meet someone and it's a total stranger and yet you like them, you know that they're friends and
You feel very comfortable.
a kindred spirit.
Sure, people realize this. They say a lot of people that are really lovers in a married sense of the word, or soulmates or whatever, that they know. You met people that you meet for the first time and you feel just, it isn't a sexual thing, it isn't a personality, it's just something that the chemistry there that you know damn well that it's not a stranger.
Have you ever been in a situation where you met someone like that was working with Helen, and you were able to go back to a similar time period, or do you ever know of that happening, of two
No,
people remembering?
I met several people through Helen, but we never tried any of that. I don't know, maybe we should suggest it and she could do some research on that. I don't know that she's gone into that, I don't think so. But I never did.
What is deja vu? What does that mean to you?
Well, we all know what it breaks down to as having been there before, or recognizing a situation that you might have seen in your mind's eye before you saw it physically.
Do you have much of that, or not because you haven't been to Egypt or?
I haven't been to any of those countries, but I've had it in San Francisco even, that you know what's going to happen before it happens, but I don't know if that has anything to do with reincarnation. You walk into a phone booth and know you're going to find something on the floor or things like that. I don't know if it's just being psychic or deja vu or what, but I don't know if it has anything to do with reincarnation. That'd be interesting to check out too. We better start making a list for Helen.
Okay. Do you think that you have more of those experiences than the average person?
Well, I do know that I am psychic, and I've been told that by some very good psychics, and I've worked with two who were beautiful people and well into training other psychics, and I guess I am.
Yeah. How do you use it, or do you?
How do I use it? Well, I don't throw out.
Have you made a killing in the stock market lately?
I don't. I haven't been in the stock market for years. I just the last time it didn't help the last time. Let's face it. Real estate maybe, but not the stock market. But I don't know. I have it with animals. I know that.
That was a question I was going to ask, and it came to my mind before you said it. So maybe I have a little bit.
I have a friend who refers to me as Saint Francis. But I do have a lot of people do, but I do have a rapport with animals that is rather unusual.
Do you have a lot of pets?
Well, let's see. I've got 11 stray cats. Anybody want a kitten? In my backyard, and 5 raccoons at 26 and Dolores in my backyard, and a few cats in the house.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some inquiries.
This is Infinity. Remember to keep your mind open and listen to your heart. I'm Charlie Seraphin. Thank you for listening.